back to my channel and back to me doing some more booktube videos now I am home from university. It's been a busy 3 months. It has been exam term at Cambridge, and so I've been doing my Shakespeare portfolio, which, as you will have seen in my last reading wrap up, Shakespeare has dominated my reading quite a lot this year. As I said in the last wrap up video that I did, I read a lot of poetry, a lot of essays, a lot of sections of novels for my degree. This is not everything that I've read, but it is the whole books that I count towards my reading goals for the year. Can we also appreciate how cute these little book nerd earrings are? Definitely not sponsored, but I think they're from a place called Jubbly Oomph or something. My friend got them for me and I just thought they were fitting for the video. Kicking off April, we have Matt Haig's The Midnight Library. I have to say I was quite disappointed. I picked it up in Tesco's for like £4, I think. I did find that I didn't enjoy it as much as the hype suggested that I would. Ability to capture the experience of depression in a way that is compassionate was really good. But yeah, overall I feel like the idea of the Midnight Library is really cool and like the premise of the book is really interesting, but I found that the way it was written didn't quite live up to the expectations. And then we have The Warrior Queen. I found this book so interesting. I've been really getting into non-fiction books this year. My particular favourite part of this as an English student was the way that it referred to texts, both from the period such as the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle and Beowulf and things, to talk about how real life merges with art and how we can find sort of factual evidence about this person through books. I then read 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes and I found this one really good. It was a really nice read. I picked it up after reading Circe. Again, I borrowed this from my mum like I did with Circe. I would say that Circe is my preference, but I really liked the section on Gaia in this. I also like that you got lots of different perspectives in this book. I then read A Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. This is not my typical sort of book, but you can see my full review of it in one of my videos where I book swapped it with my sister. I will either link that on screen or I will put it in the description below for you to go and have a look at. I did enjoy reading something a bit different and reading some fantasy. Another of my sister's books which I borrowed was Sky in the Deep by Adrienne Young. She thought that I might enjoy this because I like to read about Norse mythology, and I did like that elements of it, sort of thinking about what it would be like to exist in that society. Easy read to read before bed, but I wouldn't go around raving about it. And then we have a collection of different books on Shakespeare. So we have Bill Bryson's Shakespeare. He has his characteristically funny and entertaining style in this one, but it has to be my least favourite Bill Bryson that I've read. I feel like in other ones there are some really interesting information that is not so mainstream, which makes them really good, really helpful, and obviously really interesting. I found that this one was not very helpful and it was kind of a waste of time for me to have read, because it was information that I think is just kind of in the common conscious about Shakespeare anyway. Emma Smith's This Is Shakespeare, I really enjoyed that. It has little sections on different plays and you can read them either separately or front to back as an entire book. Her introduction very much sort of suggests that you could read them maybe before watching a production in order to get a couple of ideas about the play before you went. I liked the blend of sort of general information and more in-depth analysis. Shakespeare Court, Crowd and Playhouse. Found this in a charity shop for about 50p. I thought that the mixture of contemporary resources and different mediums was really interesting and a really great way to get a grounding in different themes and ideologies both in the Elizabethan period and how they sort of influence Shakespeare's plays. Shakespeare, A Very Short Introduction. I really love these very short introductions introduction books. I have quite a few of them, and I would really recommend them to anyone looking to do coursework or do a personal statement, for example, for English literature. They're a good place to get your brain going and to sort of point you off into different channels, because it has all of the references that it uses in the back, so you can then go on and read those books as well. I also read a Shakespeare play. I read The Taming of the Shrew. It was blatantly misogynistic and made me quite uncomfortable in that level that I was supposed to be finding it humorous. I found that some people enjoyed it because they sort of read it as a critique of misogyny, but I don't know how much of that is us putting a modern sensibility onto Shakespeare. I had to read it for a seminar, characteristically open to interpretation, and that modern directors can take the play in a different direction. And the final book of April is Why Look at Animals by John Berger. This is a collection of essays, meditations, writing, just generally. I really like these great ideas and other Penguin small books. This one my friend found in a charity shop for 40p, and I really enjoyed it. I think that the different modes of writing and different focuses allow the reader to organically come to an opinion rather than having one sort of thrust on us. And my favourite essay in it was the one on the Ape Theatre. So May had significantly less books because I was working really hard on my Shakespeare portfolio and was back in Cambridge, but I did have time for a few. The Secret Life of Books by Tom Mole. This was really interesting. I've read quite a few books, obviously on books, but a few thinking about the book as an object, which is what this book does, the sort of thingness of a book, as Mole puts it, and for that reason my favourite part of the books were when he sort of asked us to engage with this as an object as well, sort of feeling the weight of it, looking at the pages, the typography and things like that. So I then read Pericles by Shakespeare. I was reading a lot of Shakespeare, mostly rereading things like Hamlet and Antony and Cleopatra, but I read Pericles for the first time. In my edition I have both the fragments and a reconstructed text, and I really enjoyed thinking about the nature of the play as a fragment, and I also really liked that my edition had contemporary sketches of costumes and contemporary sources with it, so you could think about it as a play, like as a live thing. Kazu Ishiguro's Clara and the Sun. I, like any sane person, really love Ishiguro's novels. I would say this is possibly my least favourite of his that I have read so far. I think the narrator is very much a Marmite situation. I really enjoyed the sort of childlike whimsy of it, but I've heard a lot of people saying that the ignorance of the narrator was really annoying. I also liked that the perspective was from something that was not human but was still connected to the human, so that the reader could sort of see and examine our world from an outsider perspective. I really liked the idea of AFs, artificial friends, and I thought that was a really interesting topic for the novel to look at. However, I feel like there were times where some themes could have been better explored, such as issues with the environment and global warming and things. They sort of lie at the fringes and are suggested at but aren't really engaged with in a way that I think they deserve to be. First book of June was Ali Smith's Spring. I have heard so much about Ali Smith's novels, and this is the first one of hers that I've read. Contemporary novels like this are not really my jam, but I really think that the message and the themes brought up in this are so important. Smith really confronts the reader and provokes us to action and change. I think a lot of times novels can talk about things, but whether they will actually promote change is a very different thing. I also liked that the novel holds many different styles in it and approaches, and tries to really hold the contemporary world in that way, and really talking about the way that the traditional novel will not be able to hold both the experiences of the modern world and different authors' voices particularly well. And I really liked that from Ali Smith. I did find it quite difficult to read in places, both emotionally and also the labour of reading it. Apologies if I mispronounced the name of this, but I then read the Macclesfield Psalter, which I picked up from the Fitzwilliam Museum when I went on a trip there with a friend. I really liked this edition because it has some of the manuscript pages in it. Anyone who knows me knows that I am a medievalist through and through, and I find that something I really miss out on in the modern editions of the texts is the fact that they were manuscripts, they were handmade, and I really like thinking about books as objects and about our interaction with them and sort of the visual aspects of books. So I really liked that I had the manuscript pages in this. I also thought that some of the images in it were absolutely bizarre and hilarious. I also liked that this book thinks a little bit about our historical interaction with the text as well, such as crossing out pages, crossing out images, what that tells us about the community's relationship with the book through time, and thus what it tells us about those communities. Pandora's Jar by Natalie Haynes, and this cover is so beautiful. I was expecting this to be fiction. I perhaps should have read the blurb a little bit better. I really liked the fact that she talks about mythology as belonging to all time and looks at different artifacts, different art, textbooks to create a very rounded picture of these women, such as when she talks about the Amazons, she talks about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is one of my favourite TV shows, so I really enjoyed that. Another of the Penguin small books that I read was When I Dare to Be Powerful by Audre Lorde, and I thought the way she captures her self-proclaimed anger in the way she writes was really interesting and really powerful. I also really enjoyed the elements of the poetical in her essay style. I spend a lot of time reading essays and trying to develop my own writing style at university, considering I did an English degree, and I really enjoyed that about Audre Lorde's style. In preparation for my exam, I read Stephen Fry's The Ode Less Travelled. It is full of exercises for you to do, both in terms of marking up poetry for different metre and things like that, but also it asks you to write your own poetry. I found them so helpful in developing my scansion skills, and I would really recommend it for anyone doing GCSEs or A-levels and looking to develop your unseen skills for poetry, but also just for anyone who's interested in maybe writing a bit of poetry. I don't have a copy of it with me here, but I then read Emma by Jane Austen, which I borrowed off a friend as it is her favourite Jane Austen, and it might possibly be mine now too, knocking Sense and Sensibility off from the top spot. I really thought that Emma as a main character worked so well with Austen's characteristic sarcastic wit that I really enjoyed. I liked that it lent into the comedy side of rom-com. It's very much the iconic rom-com story. I also thought that it gave the novel a bit more pace than Austen's novels normally have, which I really enjoyed. But you can see a full review of Emma on my Bookstagram, which I will link below. Several other of the books that I have mentioned today will be on there reviewed as well. And the final book for June and the final book for this video was Evelyn Waugh's Brideshead Revisited. It's a bit unfair to this book, but not particularly my favourite period for a book to be sat in. I enjoy the sort of glamorous element, and I will give it that it was very interesting for me as a Cambridge student to read about Oxford and to see some of their traditions that are the same at Cambridge being represented in a book was very fun. Maybe that's a very niche thing to enjoy in a book, though. It was also very interesting to see how far Oxbridge has come in recent years, considering they have a whole chapter talking about women just coming to visit Oxford and how that was disgraceful and up for debate, and also talking about class issues that were at Oxford. And though it is never overt in this novel, they never mention it, there is a lot of queer male culture in this. It is very highly suggested that the two main male characters are gay, and there is also another character who is supposed to be quite a stereotypical gay man as well. Very much reminded me of The Well of Loneliness in that way, and I really enjoyed that novel, which you can see on my last book wrap-up. I hope you have enjoyed watching this video. Please do give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you are new here. Let me know in the comments what your favourite book from the past 3 months has been. I'm looking for some new things to be reading over the summer, and also let me know if there is any particular videos you would like to see. Now I am back home for the summer break, I will be doing more booktube videos, so keep your eye out for that.